How you doing, Bob? Another podcast.
Andy, good to hear from you again. I'm glad
Citizens for a Better Broome.
we're back in business, folks. Citizens for a Better Broome on Facebook. You can check us out there and see everything that we happen to post. You can look at the things that I write, bobkingsley.com. Please be aware of our meetings. They're once a month, first Monday of the month. The next one here and coming up in early October will be 6 p.m. at Thirsties over on the south side of Binghamton. October 4th, 6 o'clock in the evening. We have some drinks and some food, and we kick around ideas of which we are interested in and working on, and just talk about things in general. So if you're of like mind, or if you think you can change our minds, either way, that's good. Come on over and join us. It's all in the spirit of give and take. So
improving Broome County, keeping our children here.
So what are we going to talk about today, Andy?
Well, it's interesting is that the revitalization projects are surfacing. One here is Washington Avenue vitalization project. That's a big word for me. You know, that's what happens when you get over 60. How many times has they're paying Delta engineers to do a study of what they should do with Washington Avenue and how to improve it and revitalize the buildings, etc. And they basically have come to the conclusion, what the article is, that the ingress and egress would be better and more friendly. And I can remember doing business in Broome, having owned a business in on Harrison Avenue and in Main Street in Endicott for 30 plus years. And they've gone through this at least, in my mind, I'm playing this back through 3 different times that they've revitalized Washington Ave. But they never addressed the 800-pound elephant in the room, which is the taxes. The higher the taxes, the less value these commercial properties are, and some of the residential that is on Washington Ave. And I don't know what kind of money is going to be spent on the efforts to improve, other than the traffic pattern. It's another fool's errand as I see it. You know, a builder comes in, puts 200 or 300 grand, 400 grand in the building. And when he opens the door to allow patrons to come into his commercial establishment, he's probably, it's like it's like a car. You drive it off the lot, it depreciates 20%. And that's what's happening in Endicott and in Johnson City. If you're not on the Vestal Parkway or on Upper Front Street in Binghamton, you're not anywhere. You can't build anything and you lose value.
Well, it's interesting with Endicott, you compare it to Johnson City. Basically, you've got 2 villages separated by the Georgia Highway that are 4 or 5 miles apart, but it's almost like they're in different universes. So if you think about the main street in Johnson City, there is basically nothing at either end. So you go into Binghamton at one end, and the other end, you kind of drift into this no man's land called what used to be called Westover and Oakdale, but there's nothing kind of defining it well. But on Endicott, it's just the opposite. At one end of Washington Avenue, which is their main street, is the old IBM complex, which is now, whatever it is. It's Lockheed, or is it? Lockheed.
Yeah, well, BAE.
And so the Huron campus and Electro Techno Connect, whatever, so you've got a conglomeration of things going on in there, but it's at the very end of the street. And at the other end of the street is the high school, which kind of feeds the Wendy's and the fast food chains and like that, and anchored with a post office, kind of similar to Johnson City. But there's a definitive kind of stop and start at the end of Washington Avenue, both ends. And it was always fueled by IBM. I mean, when you had 15,000 people there, they would pour out of the place and fill up Washington Avenue's restaurants and other businesses, and off they go. But now you've got such a changed model. Like you said, it's across the river now. It's where the cars go to play, in the huge parking lots and in the mall. So you've got Vestal, stealing all that sales tax revenue from what used to be the village model. So,
well, and the vacant lots,
that's coming back.
Well, when you look at Washington Ave, I mean, you look at the vacant lots on Washington Ave, as well as on Main Street, and all the derelict buildings that are on Washington Ave, and then down in West Endicott and Union. What problem is just jumping out at you? We're business owners, someone like myself, yourself. We know what the answer is, and that's you've got to do something about the taxes. And it's not going to happen by improving the curbs and making more pedestrian friendly blocks there. No,
you're right, and I agree with you. I think that for anyone in Binghamton, Johnson, and Endicott, basically in any Broome County area that's in urban setting, that the first order of business to any business is a bulldozer, and you knock down whatever the hell it is there because it's aged and awful, right? And you build something new. But here's how it ought to work, Andy, in my view. For those people who have the balls to actually do that. They ought to, whatever the taxes were on the place before, they ought to be half of that for the next 3 to 5 years. And why do I say that? If you really have gumption to knock down whatever it is that's there and build new, so it means you're totally got it all at stake. You're mortgaged out or you've already cashed out and you've got a brand new building. You ought to be rewarded for that, not punished. And the current system would say, oh boy, a new building? Hell, the taxes on the old piece of crap that was there were $5,000 a year. Shit, this guy can afford $10,000. So let's nail it.
Right. Well, I know that.
That's the mentality. And it should be exactly the opposite. It should say, you know what? God bless this person for having faith in our community to do something decent. Let's take that tax bill that was $5,000 and make it $2,500 for 3 years. That would encourage people to come here. That's a way to do something. And it's a win because if the business is successful, then tax base is successful. And if people want to come to the business, then there's people coming and going from the village and doing other things. So I think that's an innovative way, and it just makes sense.
Well, enterprise zones, they did that in the 90s because I did build a building on Harrison Ave at 10,000 square foot building and had my business in there. Did take advantage of some, but after 7 years, it was played out, and then I got hammered with the village tax, the school tax, and at the end of the day, well, tore the plaza down, and Philadelphia sales closed down, and there's no activity down there, and it became the hood. Taking that another step further, Governor Hochul now announcing that she's going to revitalize the southern tier with a $1 billion influx of money. And what has Como been doing for the last 12 years was doing the same thing. Again,
so the Como's the Buffalo billion and Hochul's the Binghamton billion.
Well, she talks about the southern tier anyway. The same, it's the same boss as the old boss.
Andy, with the tax thing you talk about, I've thought about this for a long time. I don't know if I've vocalized it recently, but the idea of these property taxes and how they're calculated, it seems to me it's just plain simply, what do we think this person can afford? Ooh, that looks like a nice house. They must have a lot of money. Let's stick it to them. And when it should be just the opposite, is like, what is the building, whatever the building, the structure is, what's its impact on the community? And when you've got a 16 place tenement, basically in Binghamton, say, and it's filled with a bunch of people who are very poor, maybe have all sorts of legal, social problems. Police are there a lot. EMTs are there a lot of disturbances, and not a nice place to be. The tax on that building ought to be through the freaking roof, because you want to tax it the hell out of existence. Okay.
Right.
But instead the taxes are low because the building's been there forever. It's not worth much. Then you take the guy and the girl and the family, whatever, that are busting their humps. They're making a good money. They're paying a shitload of taxes. They're sending their kids to trumpet lessons, trampoline school, whatever it is. They're spending money out the wazoo as quick as they can, and we're taxing them to death. We had to cut their taxes because they don't have any impact except positive impact on the economy and the society. And these other places that are a dredge and a drain ought to be taxed out of existence so that we can knock them down with a bulldozer, and then somebody with some ingenuity can come in and build something there and make
developer,
it better.
Right? To develop.
Yeah, we do just the opposite of what we should be doing.
We penalize the success. Well, we're seeing that with the village of Johnson City, where the new owners of the Oakdale Mall, very well connected, they end up getting a $500,000 sales
tax forgiveness of some sort. The pilot, right?
Right. They're getting the pilot, as with the previous taxes were $3 million. Now that the village and the town union have to make up another $2.5 million. And for what benefit? Who benefits? The owners
the people at the other end of the mall that build bars up there.
Well, the owners of the new Oakdale Mall, they're the true beneficiaries, where everybody else is going to have to pony up $200 or $300 or $400 more on their taxes. And the powers to be there obviously don't care. You really I'm convinced that these municipalities, even they may have good intentions, but shit, they're screwing us to death, man.
I don't think their intentions are good. You give them too much credit. Why in the hell would you put a social service office in a place like a commercial mall? Why would you do that? You're sucking up space for something that can be a tax contributor.
Revenue.
Right. Instead, you're putting a government agency in there. It makes no freaking sense at all. Somebody's greasing somebody. That there's a lot more to this story than meets the eye. It doesn't make any freaking sense.
No, especially when you're getting had 100% full valuation and it goes down to 15%. Like you said, I've said this before, there's some home cooking going on.
This just proves that they've been jamming it to you all along. If they're willing, if any municipality is willing to make that big of a concession, that basically means we've been screwing you all along. It's like a store that says, hey, it's 80% off. What the hell are you talking about? How the hell can it be 80% off? It must have been not worth crap to begin with.
Right. Well, and Broome County comes at us with a $409 million budget. And last year it was, I think, 380, 390. Where's that money coming from? As well, Garner has reduced the taxes the last 4 years. That has happened. Well, then we're at a 5% inflation rate the last 2 years in the United States. So we've lost 10% of our purchasing power. So a dollar that was once buying a dollar for dollar, now we're paying 90 cents. So as a homeowner, whatever you're spending for anything, add another 10% to it.
Well, Andy, how about this? Compare the budget of all of Broome County to the budget of the Binghamton City School District. All right. Got a Binghamton City School District that by all measures, does not perform very well. And it's what, 130 million, I want to say? It's over 100. It's over 100
million,
I'm
thinking
right?
It's even, I don't know.
Maybe
I don't
even
want to
150.
Say. Right.
Even
I'm
130,
thinking
150. 1/3 of the amount of the county budget, and we run the whole freaking county on 3 times as much money, not even as for one school district that doesn't perform very well.
Bob,
what the hell?
It's for the children.
$20,000 a kid for bad performance.
Well, I think
really?
You're overreacting here. It's really for the children. You're not.
Oh my God, Andy, I'm going to cut your throat.
You're not seeing the big picture here.
Oh my God, we flipped. Andy's flipped. Andy's gone to the dark side.
I know, my head exploding.
Oh my God, I need a new co-host.
So what are they paying? $36,000 a year? I don't have a calculator right here, but where the national average
20,000. It's 20,000 a kid, something like that.
The national average is what, 14, 15,000?
Oh yeah.
I think it's more than
New Jersey.
That.
Oh, you take Jersey, New York, and California out, and Illinois out of the mix. It's like 8,500.
Well,
yeah,
and
it's insane.
And this other thing that may talk about my head exploding is that the new governor is proposing a $3 billion environmental package so that they can replace the power lines that are delivering fossil fuel energy to New York City. They want to have a complete green electrical grid by 2030. And they're going to do that by bringing clean energy hydropower from Quebec, as well as replacing, as I just said, with the fossil fuel power lines. I don't know why they can't just run the hydropower through the older lines. However, they're going to build two transmission lines along with bringing the wind power and the solar power from upstate New York. And what we're seeing is all across the country, in particular Texas and California, they're finding that wind and solar not make up for the demand.
Oh, it's not even close. There's not enough lithium in the world market to build batteries. I mean, the resources, the physical resources to build the equipment doesn't even exist. The floor space that the batteries take up. I mean, it's just
for 9 million people in the city. In Long Island, right? Virtue signaling. How can New York State outdo California? I mean, it's like these two blue states on each side of the country are just trying to outdo each other by, who's going to bankrupt who first?
Andy, you know what? The whole deal with this thing is very simple, and nobody wants to say it on the left, and that is nuclear. Nuclear is the solution. If you're convinced that electric is it and fossil fuels are dead, the only feasible solution with the technology and science to back it up today is nuclear. That's it. The rest of it's crap. It's lipstick on a pig. Solar and wind. Wind. We got enough wind coming from the lungs of the a-holes who are trying to shove this crap down our throat.
Yeah, in Albany. Exactly.
Yeah, it's nuts. Well, I think we've exhausted ourselves for another episode, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. If you didn't like this episode, I guarantee you the next one will be free. We'll see you again next week. Andy, it's always a pleasure.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.